Welcome back. Motordrome Speedway, round 11 of the 2015 NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. Jason Wygant, Parker Klingerman, and Derek Pertisiglio going to be patrolling pit road for us. Give you the race analysis and show you exactly what we have in store today on the short track. Parker?
Yeah, so there's a half mile, but most interestingly enough, this is 9 degrees of banking on the straightaways and 12 degrees in the corners. Not a huge separation there. Also a very wore-out surface.
150 laps and no pit stops. Let's toss back to Derek.
And our Who to Watch driver will be starting 8th tonight. That's the number 22 of Austin Hill. What most people don't realize about this team is that they operate on a budget about 1/10 of the rest of the K&N Pro Series guys. They have a small skeleton crew, but they do their homework and they have a lot of determination. Hill's running in the top 5 in the point standings right now. He says that all they need is one good run and they could be right there in the thick of the championship battle. He said in the next couple of races, he's going to start to get aggressive and not laying back. There's only a handful of races left, so why not try to go for it? Pick up some wins, and when the wins come, so do the points.
And Hill is a new crew chief as well. Mike Abner going to do the work for him now. Ron Otto has actually moved on, his former crew chief, working with Dylan Bassett today. Let's give you the starting grid. You know that the Justin Marks H. Scott Motorsports drivers are 1, 2, Byron and Hecker. We already talked about them, but a lot of talent in here. Dalton Sargent, their teammate on the outside of row 2. And Rico Abreu, another driver on that team on the inside of row 3.
And one driver to point out here is the 42 car of Sergio Pena that's normally driven by Jay Beasley, but he is sick today. Sergio Pena is filling in.
And there's the rest of the field. Kyle Benjamin won a race earlier in the year at Bristol. He'll be in the outside of row 6, so he could be one to watch as well. Dylan Hoffman is a Pennsylvania native. He'll be in the back, row 11. So ready to go, 150 laps here, and we're coming to the green. You've got the teammates, again, on the front row, and they are also 1 and 2 in points. But a lot of drivers talking about tire degradation. So we'll see the strategy early in this one as we head to the green flag, and we're underway. And Byron instantly shoots ahead of Heckert in the 9. So Heckert now under pressure, actually, from his teammate, the 51, Dalton Sargent, in that black around the outside, trying to take over second, using the high line.
A really great start there by William Byron. Just really put the power down, not an ounce of wheel spin. Maybe Scott Heckert even had a little bit of wheel spin there. Couldn't keep up with his teammate. Dalton Sargent got around on the outside. I'll be interesting to see how that outside line works on these restarts and works as we lay some rubber down throughout this race.
And Heckert in the 34, now under fire from the 3 of Kaz Gralla and Austin Hill in the 22. Who started 8th, and Hill already moving up to 5th and trying to get Gralla using the high line.
He's really holding well on that outside line there. You see a lot of the cars put their left sides even below that yellow line. They're trying to almost de-wedge the car down there, and but it does get very bumpy down there. So you have to watch out of those left side tires where you're putting them in relation to the grass.
And he's cleared Gralla, and now getting Heckert. You got the number 5, J.J. Haley, right there as well. But it looks like the 22 of Hill, that white car, has moved up to 3rd from 8th.
Yeah, that's just really impressive. But you see there, Scott Heckert, he's struggling a little bit, and I actually saw some sparks coming out from under the car. Have to wonder if on these low tire pressures or how low they started their tire pressures, he's struggling a little bit, considering we know the speed that car has after qualifying 2nd.
Yeah, and Gralla now going around him as well. So Heckert, who started in 2nd, losing some ground, while meanwhile, Byron and Sargent starting to pull away. You can already see the gap they've built up here. Let's send to Derek with more on the 51.
Well, after talking with Dalton Sargent earlier in the day, he said, I'm tired of being the first loser. He was fastest in final practice. He started 4th at the drop of the green. He's already moved up right now and challenging your leader, William Byron. He really wants to win an East Series race. He's already done the job in the West Series earlier this year, winning at Kern County, but he's yet to win in the East Series. He seems to think that he can do it here tonight, and he's going to make his truck debut next week for Richie Waters at Bristol.
Thank you, Derek. We actually did a piece on Dalton Sargent earlier in the year in NASCAR America, and we had commented on the fact that he really felt like he wasn't aggressive enough in these races, and I felt like he was always maybe a bit timid at the start of these races, and we're seeing here tonight he's not being timid. He's going up there and racing for that win. He wants to get a win, and interestingly enough, he actually did a late model race here earlier in May.
He has 3 second-place finishes this year in the East Series, so that's why Derek's saying he's tired of being in 2nd. banging on the door now of the 9. So you said he'd be aggressive, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, real change of pace for him. And actually what you saw there, you almost saw his car take a little hop, and that's where he just got that left side too low below that yellow line. And when you go down there, you can actually fall into the grass where there's a big separation between the asphalt and the grass.
How about Pena here in the 42 filling in for Beasley, as we mentioned, moving forward up to 6th. He's got Dylan Bassett in the 44 right behind him, and they have gotten around the 5 of Haley.
A good run for Sergio Pena. I know him really well. He's a good young man. It's done well in this series before. He's been kind of on the sidelines in recent months, but good for him to get a chance here in the circumstances under which Jay Beasley is sick right now.
And Bassett running the low line, trying to get around him to get into that 6th place spot. And up ahead of them is Heckert. Looks like the inside might just work here for Bassett.
Yeah, I think as we see these tire pressures come up and the drivers start to really get in that conservation mode with the tires, you know, this is a place being so bumpy and wore out, you're really going to need to protect those tires. We harp on it a lot in this series, but with no tire changes in this race, you really need to protect them, because what you do in each and every lap adds up until on lap 150, you hopefully have enough left to go up there and fight for the lead.
And Heckert losing a few more spots here. Start in the front row, dropped to 5th, and now both Bassett and Pena have gotten them, and the 5 of Haley trying to do the same. So is this set up problems for Heckert, or do you think this is just tire strategy? How do you play this?
Well, it's very important at this racetrack with how wore out it is to really conserve your tires. You have to conserve them in a race like this where you're not changing tires. What you do each and every lap affects how those tires are come lap 50 when you're hopefully fighting for the lead. But in talking to Scott Heckert specifically, early this year at Langley Speedway, he was actually over-conservative and almost went a lap down that week, and really thought going forward he had to be more aggressive at the beginning of these races or find a way to make his car better at the beginning and have the longevity in the car towards the end of the races. Right now, though, I have to say that this is looking very reminiscent of Langley, where he is taking a step back too far, and hopefully they can either figure out something inside the car with the brake bias, or they might have just put those tire pressure too low and that car will come on later.
Remember, he's 2nd in points, while the points leader, Byron, is leading this one. A couple other drivers to watch. You got the 98, Weaker Abreu, 27 of Benjamin, and the 15 of Nick Drake, all in this pack. This is the back half of the top 10, and they're all closing again on that 34 of Heckert.
And we see that in this series. You know, when you have a car going backwards at a lot of these short tracks where sometimes it's more of a single groove, you'll see here Scott Heckert falling back and starting to almost create a train here. You know, you have the 5 there of Haley, the 27 Benjamin, as you mentioned, and they're going to start to get aggressive or impatient. And what we see in this series a lot is some of the guys that can maybe stay more patient, it pays off for them in the end.
Look at Bassett continuing to make some moves, closing up now to Gralla. This would be for 4th, and Austin Hill in 3rd, just ahead of them. Bassett's best finish this year was at our opener in Florida, where he finished 6th. So really strong right now, although, oh, wait a minute, we got a yellow and a car into the wall. I think that's the 94 of Hoffman, who is the Pennsylvania native. Yes, it is the 94 into the wall.
And looking at where he is on the racetrack, that's very representative of that 9 degrees of banking that this track has on the straightaways, forcing him down to the inside. See, it just comes off turn 4 here, just loses that rear end, maybe a little too aggressive on the throttle. And with that 9 degrees of banking, almost being a self-cleaning racetrack, it forced him right into the inside wall.
So all that work that the 9 and the 51 had done, Byron and Sargent, to get away, it's gone, because we got a yellow flag. Hill, Gralla, and the rest will close right back up. Welcome back to the UPMC 150. First caution of the night out here at the Motordrome just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But we're going to have our first restart then. On the inside will be the number 9 of William Byron and his teammate Dalton Sargent in the 51 on the outside. They had built up a pretty good gap over the 3 and the 22. But it's gone now. And we're racing again.
And a really good restart once again by William Byron. Not as big a jump as he had on his teammate Scott Heckert on the start, but once again a considerable jump. He seems to really have that car hooked up and not spinning the tires on the restart.
2 packs already forming here. Pena on the 42, getting a little loose on the exit.
3 wide there. Got to be careful there, especially when this track tightens up as you get in the corner. You saw Scott Heckert, he had his nose under Pena there for a little bit and actually backed out knowing that it was going to be a sandwich if he stuck there.
Pena having problems here, loose on the exit in several corners, and a couple of drivers going around him. The 5 of Haley, the 15 of Drake, and he's right in the middle of it. Everybody's trying to avoid him. You mentioned Heckert, and that 34 gets pinched off.
Yeah, and you actually see what's happening to Pena here is that sometimes you can just get a little over-aggressive, spin the tires and heat them up and slide, and then if you continue doing that, you can't find a rhythm. You're being forced to the middle, 3 wide. See how loose. He must have a problem here. He's got a tire going down, I have to think. That is very loose.
He's not supposed to be slinging it like that. Okay, now he goes to the high line. Big trouble. Yeah, clearly
he's got a right
problem.
rear down here. Yeah, he's got a right rear tire down here. He's going to spin it out. It's on the rim. That's you know, that's going to be hard to hold on to. I'm actually very impressed with how long he did hold on to that in 3 wide situations, being forced in the middle. Really impressive driving by Sergio Pena.
So just explain the pit stop situation here. If you have a flat, they will let you pit, but otherwise you have to stay out, correct?
Exactly, and they'll let you come in, change that tire specifically. You can't change all 4 tires, and then you'll have a new right rear there. Hey, it might pay off for him in the end.
It was impressive, yeah, holding on to it.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where you know at that point you have a tire down. One of the best things you can do is kind of just let the car spin out when you've slowed it down enough to kind of get it out of the racetrack or you know, avoid getting in the wall at times because you won't make it back to the pits with that tire down like that at racing speed.
Now, he has made it down to the pits, and as you said, they will only change that right rear. Every other tire has to stay the same. But would having one fresh tire help?
Well, I have to think of how wore out this racetrack is. You know, as long as it doesn't upset the balance too much in the race car and maybe make you a little bit tight, I have to think just having that little newer rubber can really be an advantage at a place like this that is so wore out and so bumpy and really abusing the tires.
And another test on the restart coming here for Byron, who's been very strong at the drop of the green so far. Got Hill back there in third. Hill told me earlier his goal was to get up to about third or fourth and then just ride and save tires. He was very fortunate to get to third very early, so we'll see if he can hang in with this pace without wearing the car out too much. There's no doubt that the 9 and 51, they've been going out. I don't know if they're conserving too much. We'll see how it goes here as the green flag comes back up, and we're racing again in Pennsylvania.
We see William Byron there just get a little loose. Dalton Sargent with a great restart. He really read William Byron's start the first time where he got probably beat out by William Byron, and that time really read it well. Was able to stay right door to door with William Byron and really solidify himself in a second and not giving too big a lead to William.
But the low line, we got another accident here. Rohrbaugh is not quite into the wall, I don't think, but into another car. So it's going to bring out yet another caution. So Sargent's going to get another shot at trying to make the outside work out a restart.
And that will be interesting to watch because at this time, William Byron then has to say, okay, what can I do differently? Obviously, Dalton has figured out what I did the first time. And restarts are really kind of a game, a lot of drivers will say. Sometimes you might brake a little bit, slow the car up, and then get on the gas. Sometimes you'll roll up quicker. It really has to depend on what you want to do.
2 17-year-olds battling it out for the lead here. Stay with us. Back at the UPMC Health Plan 150, round 11 of 15 in the K&N Pro Series East. Gonna have another restart here. It's the 2 kids, 17-year-old teammates on the H. Scott Motorsports with Justin Marks squad, the 9 of Byron and the 51 of Sargent. Last couple restarts, Sargent's been getting closer and closer to edging him. He's gonna try again on the high line.
And once again, a really good restart by William Byron. And what he did there, which I talked about, it kind of being a game, almost a game of trickery, is where you need to switch it up each time. And there he actually went earlier than the previous restarts, really showing me that he's trying to work and find ways to trick his teammate there, Dalton Sargent, when he's about to go back to green.
And this guy's found something. The 44 of Bassett up to third, around Gralla in the 3, and the 22 of Hill. So on the move.
Really been marching forward. That car looks really good. It's cutting to the center well, which is what you need here. All we can hope is that he's not abusing those tires too much. As we talked about, they are in conservation mode at this point in the race.
Yeah, again, Hill said third or fourth. He'll take that early and wait to maybe the last 20 or 30 laps to really put the hammer down. You got to watch the 15, the Napa car of Nick Drake coming on as well. The 5 of Haley and the 27 of Benjamin right behind him.
Yeah, and these three have been really locked together here for the better part of the first 50 laps of this race. Really in a line, but being smart. They're not racing each other too hard. They're not getting into each other's bumpers. It looks like they're trying to put themselves in position to be able to go up there and maybe get in the top 5.
So many great young drivers out here, and the 5 of Haley is another one. He's our next gen.
Hi, I'm JJ Haley, driver of the number 5 Ronald Chevrolet for Race Scout with Justin Marks. I got my start in quarter midgets, moved up to mini sprints on the street stocks, and then went to late models and eventually the K&N Pro Series. My goals for the series is just, race clean and have a good year, have a good points year, and I'll be back next year to have even more fun.
Gee, wow! I mean, Haley he's out in the cheap seats.
My career goals are to eventually race in the Truck Series, which I'm going to do this year. So that was my biggest accomplishment, and eventually move to the Sprint Cup Series. I'm JJ Haley, and that's your NASCAR Next Gen profile.
Haley has back-to-back top 5s coming into this one as he's battling with the 15 of Drake. I asked him why things have turned around a little bit, and he said he just wasn't used to the bumping and banging as he came into this series, but starting to, as he said, basically not get wrecked as much, and the results are better because of it.
And that is a lesson for a lot of drivers. I know when I was a young driver coming up, through these ranks, especially, in terms of being aggressive, how aggressive are you supposed to be, or how aggressive are others going to be? Sometimes it can be kind of a wake-up call if you go into a series and you feel like you're not being aggressive enough, or others are being overly aggressive to you. You've got to either rise your aggression level sometimes to fit into the series and kind of supplant yourself as someone that's not going to get pushed around.
And now you got the 27 doing some pushing, just lightly getting into the rear bumper. That's Benjamin on Drake in the 15.
Yeah, and we said earlier, these three have just really been locked together. We've seen these two race a lot this year, Nick Drake and Kyle Benjamin. And I think right now, these two, to me, just look like they are finding ways or trying to conserve their tires, conserve the race cars right now. Although, as you see the 15 there get a little loose out of the corner, that's not the way to conserve your right rear.
And Benjamin pretty much dominated the race at Bristol, but he said the banking really changed the way his car performed there, and they're trying to get that same type of feel on the flatter surface. It worked on it at Langley, was solid in the top 3 there, and going after another good finish on a flatter racetrack here.
No, and you bring up a good point there. That is a tough thing to do. When you find a place where you really gel and you go out there and you're successful and you win a race, and then you go on to places that are completely different, like a flat track compared to Bristol. Sometimes as a driver, it's hard to tell your crew chief, especially when you're learning exactly what you need, because you want to say, hey, I want it to drive like Bristol, and they're going to tell you it can't drive like Bristol, so we need it to drive like it needs to drive here, and that's a tough thing sometimes.
And the 04 of Bassett, that's the older brother of Dylan Bassett, who's up front, Ronnie Bassett. He's a lap down.
And that was an awesome pass around the outside there. I have to think there's either some tire changes there or something that's gone on there, because he just had tremendous speed around the outside compared to Nick Drake and Kyle Benjamin there.
Yeah, so just trying to get some laps back. He's back in the running order. So we'll see. Same situation we had earlier with a couple other cars. Pena and the rest. Fresh tires might help. We'll be right back. Well, the town of Smithton, Pennsylvania, enjoying some great short track racing tonight. We'll recap what we have seen so far. Fireworks leading to the green flag. William Byron has led every lap, but he has been challenged at every step by the 51 of Dalton Sargent. A couple of close restarts for them as well. Dylan Hoffman spun, goes into a wall, and Sergio Pena lost this outside rear tire, and that led to a spin and a quick stop for him on pit road. So some action up front and also in the back. And now a changeup. Dylan Bassett in the 44 just keeps on trucking. He's now up to second.
Yeah, he's really tracked down these leaders. He's being aggressive, and I just have to wonder if he's being maybe too aggressive on those rear tires, as I see him really finding ways to get loose off the corners. Ooh, right up in the door there of our leader, William Byron. See, at lap 94 of 150, I have to think that might be a little early to be that aggressive, but hey, he's got the lead here. He's driving away. Yeah, first lap led by someone other than William Byron tonight. And Byron, in his previous wins, we were at other tracks such as Greenville Pickens in South Carolina, and everyone said you got to save tires, and he pretty much took off from the start and never had a problem, and it looked like he was doing that early. So now we'll see if Byron is changing strategies. Is the car going away? Either way, Bassett doesn't care. He's starting to open it up. Yeah, what I'm actually seeing on William Byron's car is he's trying to use a little bit more below that yellow line. It tells me maybe he's a little tight in the center, and something that he really had at those races that he absolutely dominated and drove away from the field was that car would cut through the center, and when it did that, it allows you to be straight coming off, and when you're straight coming off, you can get back in the throttle better and not abuse that right rear tire or that left rear tire, which really, even when you talk about saving tires, if you have a car that turns that well, you can drive away from the field and be using just as little tire as someone else that's running 5th or 6th.
Now, Sargent in the 51 is back to 6th. Remember, he was all over Byron for the first half of this race. So is his car starting to go away as Gralla and Haley in the 3 and the 5 have caught him.
Yeah, and you see the different lines there. Gralla was having a wider entry, kind of diming in the corner more. As you see here, he'll cut down below that yellow line almost on the exit. And then you see Dalton Sargent there turning in a little bit earlier, getting his left sides below that yellow line sooner. Two different theories about how to get around this racetrack, but also can illustrate two different handling race cars here that we're seeing out of these two.
And just ahead of them, you have Hill in the 22. But this is a 3-driver fight, and Haley and Gralla have gotten into it a couple times this year. They seem to find each other on the track quite a bit as they also try to find their way around Sargent.
Yeah, and we've seen Gralla being penalized before this year for aggressive driving. I think he took that to heart, took it to note, and has been a very level-headed driver since, you know. But I just find it very interesting right now. You see the absolutely two different lines around this racetrack that these two are running, and they're effectively running the same speed.
Yeah, pretty good. The multiple lines have worked out about the same. Gralla almost up to the rear bumper of Sargent now, and a little bit of an opening. And here comes Haley as well.
Yeah, he just got forced. You know, Gralla was maybe even being a little too conservative there. Now using the outside line here to get around Dalton. Side by side here into turn 3. Let's see if he... Oh, and we have a caution on the racetrack.
Oh, I was just about to see if the drive off was going to help Gralla seal that pass. But now at the caution, should put Sargent back up ahead of them. Not sure what the caution is out for. Now, we did hear some... Derek talked about at the beginning of the show that the track had been patched up, and some of the drivers were worried that it wasn't going to last the entire 150 laps. Bassett had done such great work getting to the front, and we are hearing, yes, it is because that patch they put in earlier this morning has come back up, so we have to do a track repair. How do you prepare for this? We don't even know how long it's going to take, Parker.
Wow, this is a tough thing, you know, especially this late in the race. You do not expect a problem like this to suddenly occur. You know, this is something that you can't plan for, you can't predict happening. You know, just look at someone like Dylan Bassett that was starting to drive away from the field. He's driving his race thinking that these tires are going to stay hot, that there's not going to be a stoppage like this where everyone's tires can cool down, their cars can heat sink a little bit. This really affects a lot of things that just you can't plan for. You don't know when something like this is going to happen.
So the official just tossing a chunk of the racetrack aside. There's the patch that Derek saw them preparing earlier.
Wow, look at that. It's like a pothole here on I-95.
We said the track was bumpy. We didn't mean this bumpy. Okay, so we're past halfway. They could potentially call this if they cannot get it repaired. See what happens. Stay with us. Okay, we're back on the improved racetrack here at Motordrome Speedway in Smithtown, Pennsylvania. And here's the key. We made it to about lap 100. There was some debris on the track. It wasn't from a car. It was actually from a patch they had put on the track earlier this morning had come loose. So red flag and a lot of time spent repairing it. We hope it holds up. This is extensive work. How is this going to affect the cars and the drivers? First of all, forget about the patch, Parker. Just the fact they had to stop.
Yeah, and that's a big point. I mean, this can really change things. You put a heat cycle on these tires where they were able to cool down under that red flag. You're not able to change tires, so now this can really affect what those tires have grip-wise, what their stagger size is, everything, your tire pressures. It can change literally everything about that race car just by being able to cool back down.
Back underway, Bassett in the 44 on the inside. And it looks like the 9, Byron, trying to go back to the front and look at the 22.
3 wide for the lead here. Whoa!
Hill,
into
what
the
a
9,
charge.
in the door.
Wow.
Really smart move by Austin Hill. Dylan Bassett into the door of William Byron. Really aggressive stuff here. And that can be a lot of that as well. You saw Dylan Bassett go flying up the track a little bit. That's just unexpected grip levels on these tires after they've been able to sit under this red flag for so long.
And Hill said he was going to wait. till about 30 laps to go before he really put in a charge, and that is exactly what he did, going from third on the grid to the lead. But Bassett is not letting him go, working the outside.
You saw Austin Hill there get actually loose on the straightaway. He's just getting into the throttle so hard, trying to drive off that corner and get ahead of Bassett. Great racing at the front.
As they're side-by-side, Byron also got super loose on the exit as well in third, and that has allowed the 3 of Gralla and the 5 of Haley to close on him. So multiple battles to watch. Bassett is going to try to complete this pass using the drive off on the outside, and he gets it.
Yeah, and Austin Hill just slid up the track there a little bit. I'd have to say, if there was any thought of saving tires, we're not seeing it right now. These two are going really hard, and Bassett actually completes the passer on the outside.
And it has allowed Byron to close back up just a bit in third, as Gralla and Heckert are now battling it out. Heckert moving back up the order. Maybe saving tires paid off for him.
Yeah, I think we're seeing once again, like he said at Langley, when he saved those tires a lot, he was able to come on in the end, and maybe it saved too much, but with that red flag we saw here, I think it really helped Scott Heckert out, and we're seeing him fighting himself back into the top 5 in that 34 car.
So now the 9 and the 34, first and second in points coming in. They could be bumper to bumper on the track. Yes, Heckert has now gotten around Gralla. So third and fourth are the drivers battling for the championship.
And that's very interesting, you know, as well as these two being team. Ooh, we see Scott Heckert get really loose there. That's definitely not saving tires. So I think these guys know this is go time. They've got to go for everything they've got. And you see a lot of these cars sparking, and I have to think some of that is just the tire pressures cooling so far down under that red flag and now trying to find themselves coming back up under green flag conditions.
So the teammate battle resumes. They were there at the drop of the green flag at the start, and 129 laps later, Heckert and Byron hooking it back up. Watching Pena coming through. Remember, he had that tire go down? Maybe that's paying off for him. And also the 98 of Rico Abreu on the move, trying to get into the top 10.
Yeah, and Pena, we thought that right rear tire getting changed could be a little bit of advantage, and I think we're seeing it right now. He's just got a good drive off. He's come back to the field well, and I think he's been patient and smart. You don't see many bumps or bruises on that race car. He's definitely doing the right things to hopefully get back up there and maybe even fight himself into the top 5. Here comes the end.
And back to the battle. Heckert has gotten around Byron now, and you've also got Haley and Gralla right with them. 4 cars in one spot.
Yeah, he's got that car going all over the place. See Haley even getting in the grass a little bit. These 4 are really going at it. But Byron, I got to think that car is just going away on him a little bit. He's sliding around a lot. You see him getting loose there off 2. He's definitely lost the handle on that car, and maybe, as we said before, just was too aggressive at the start of this race.
Well, maybe some proof is that the 51 of Sargent, who he battled with early, has dropped even further back. Now Gralla on the outside, the number 3, going to try to get Byron as well. So points starting to slip away from your series leader.
Yeah, and we're watching this championship battle unfold before our eyes here. As you said, you know, the points are slipping away from Byron. Scott Heckert is going forward. Byron is going backwards, and that's not a position you want to be in. But with the season that William Byron has had, I believe if he holds his composure here, really stays focused on the bigger picture, this doesn't have to be such a damaging night.
Now he's got Haley in the 5 trying to get him as well. That would be for 5th.
Ooh, and that is tight. That's where Haley's just trying to get William Byron to spot her to just hint at saying inside, and then William Byron will have to concede that bottom line. As you see Haley getting to the inside of him here.
Where did Abreu in that white and blue 98 come from? We saw him battling Rustin and Pena to get into 10th, and now he's right behind this battle in 7th, and he might already have an inside line on Byron.
Well, it just reminds me a lot of what we've seen out of that 34 car. Ooh, he really drives it down in there low, almost in the grass. I like this racetrack for that reason alone. This place allows you to kind of, not maybe a dive bomb, but really find some extra pavement on the inside and slide up and move the guy on the outside out of the way and take the position. You see William Byron getting really loose in the center of the corner there. I think that race car has really lost the right rear. But yeah, as I said before, it's like the 98 and the 34 were just sitting there biding their time, and now after that red flag have just come on very strong.
Now Abreu going to try to work the outside on Haley. and makes that pass as well. So obviously, yeah, he's got to have some grip that no one else does. He's blowing by these guys.
Oh, that's serious speed. I mean, that's very impressive. That just shows you right there what we've preached about with these tires is what it can do at the end of these races. If you save those tires appropriately, you can look like a Superman out there when you've got that extra grip on all four corners.
Well, Rico sure does. He's literally passing a car in every corner and using insides and outsides to do it. And now Heckert, who we thought saved his tires, he's next in the order for Rico, who I guess saved even more.
Yeah, this is just very impressive. Wow.
Meanwhile, Sargent, who is so strong early, continues to go back. Rohrbaugh, who had crashed at one point, getting around him and pushing Sargent outside of the top 10.
Yeah, we talked about earlier the piece on NASCAR America about Dalton Sargent where he mentioned that maybe he hadn't been aggressive enough at the beginning of races. And then here tonight, we saw him be really aggressive and go up there and fight for the lead. But I don't want him to take this back, put this in his notes as a failure in terms of being aggressive. I think that this racetrack just really lent itself to taking care of the tires, which they didn't do. But I think he can take that aggression and move it forward into the next race.
Yeah, again, a rookie in this and just 17 years old. They're going to learn for sure as you watch Gralla and Haley, of course, battling it out as they seem to do at almost every race. Oh, whoa. Big time loose for Gralla, and that's going to open it up for Haley.
Yeah, and you see Gralla using that wide entry. We've seen him doing it all night, just a really wide entry, but maybe just sometimes can't hold it as you see him get loose there again. Looks like Haley might be able to find a way to put the power down here and get around him.
It looks like at this point in the race, it's a battle of who's the least loose. Everybody's loose, and here comes Abreu right around Hill. So Hill, who said, again, he would be conserving tires, but not as much as Abreu, who's in second. Does he have a shot at winning this now?
Well, with Abreu's background winning the Chili Bowl, USAC Midget, USAC Sprint cars, he's used to being loose. He's used to driving race cars on that right rear, and I think right now this is just really falling into his wheelhouse. He's absolutely picking them up and putting them down right now, and I think you're seeing a guy who's really comfortable having that race car be very loose and hung out.
Bassett, though, continues to lead, and he's got some lap drivers to help. Let's send to Derek.
You know, we've talked about Dylan Bassett in our K&N broadcast in the past, but let's get you better acquainted with this young driver. He hails from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He started 7th at the drop of the green, and in the last 3 races he's run in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East, he's had finishes of 11th, 13th, and 8th. A lot of people have said that he has been walking around the pit area today with the most confidence he's ever had at a racetrack, and one of those contributing factors is crew chief Ron Otto. Ron Otto has worked at every level of racing, from the Cup level all the way down to the NASCAR K&N Pro Series. He's helped develop drivers along the way like Corey LaJoie and Austin Hill. And now it's Dylan Bassett's turn. He's leading this race. He's very quiet on the radio, hasn't said a thing, and there's only a handful of laps to go.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, Otto was the crew chief for Hill when Hill won the opener in New Smyrna. And Hill said the communication, they just weren't gelling together. So that's a big gain that Bassett was able to pick Otto up. Mike Abner, who did data acquisition for Hill, is now Hill's crew chief. He's in third. Abreu has cleared the lap cars, but he's got a long way to go to get Bassett for the lead.
And one thing I want to mention about Bassett, I heard they're talking about confidence, and confidence as an athlete and especially a race car driver is so key, and that's what this series is about. It's about young drivers coming in here and gaining confidence in big, heavy stock cars. But sometimes when you get that confidence, it can be a huge benefit to your performance, and we're seeing that here tonight.
17 years old is Bassett. Now he's got to deal with some slower traffic, and Abreu continuing to close, but it's the last lap. Career best as a rookie here is a 6th place finish in this series, and he's looking to go all the way not just into the top 5 or top 3, but to victory lane. Checkered flag in sight. Bassett wins in Pennsylvania.
Very impressive win, a very intelligent win. I felt like Bassett there in this race was very smart about his tires and was able to calculate after that red flag exactly what he needed to do with his race car. I think he put on a great race here tonight. He can be proud of that and come out of here very confident.
Yeah, and a small, low-budget operation. They didn't even go to our last race at Watkins Glen, and they come back and take a win. That's confidence. He had some coming in. You can't imagine what he's going to have coming out of it. We'll be right back to talk to our winner. K&N Pro Series Racing on NBCSN is brought to you by K&N High-Flow Air Filters and Air Intake Systems, because everyone loves that fast car smell. Well, we have an upset winner. First time ever to victory lane for Dylan Bassett. Let's send it back to Derek Pertisiglio.
Here he comes with an underfunded team, a skeleton crew, but a whole lot of heart. Dylan Bassett comes home here tonight at Motordrome, a winner. The confetti, hugs, and kisses flying all around. Dylan, come on over here. We got to talk to you, buddy.
I want a hug.
Ron Otto comes in and says, I want a hug.
Awesome job. Good job, brother. You did it. You did it. You're a winner, baby.
A happy crew all around, family coming in for big hugs. It's an emotional victory lane down here. Let's turn him around right over here. Dylan Bassett, can you describe this moment?
No, I just can't thank the Lord enough for blessing me with this. This is probably the greatest thing that's happened to me. I can't even describe to y'all what this means to me, what this means to my team. I'm speechless right now. This is probably the greatest victory I've ever had. I just can't believe it.
Well, Dylan Bassett and his team show that not a lot of money, but a whole lot of hard work and homework can get you to victory lane.
And Jason, not only tears of joy, but tears of relief. I've been exactly where that young man is in my career at times where you were underfunded and knew you had to go out there and perform, and he got it done.
Here are your results. Rico Abreu from outside the top 10 in a strong charge for second, and Hill, his best race of the year since winning the opener back in February. Heckert makes up some more ground in the series by edging out his teammate with a solid fourth. That was eighth for the points leader. Dalton Sargent ends up 11th after challenging for the lead early. Kyle Benjamin would have liked to have a little more. He ends up in 16th. Let's go back to Derek.
Well, Rico Abreu brings the number 98 home in second tonight here at the Motordrome Speedway. But take us back through the race. What was the break that you needed to get you to second place?
Just try to conserve our tires as much as we could. The tire wear is so critical here. And Marty, my crew chief, he's just on me about being patient. And we dropped all the way back to 18th and then made a late race charge. Ran a lot of caution laps. I think if it wasn't for all the caution laps, we could have had a shot at the win. But it was a fun race, a lot different race pace than I'm used to. It's probably the slowest I've ever gone in a race car, just trying to clock laps off and go off lap time. So it paid off at the end, though, and everyone at H-Scott Motorsports has done just a tremendous job on getting me comfortable and safe in this race car, and it's just so much fun to drive lately.
Does it get you worried at one point where you fall back that far if you're ever going to make it back up to the front?
It can, but this is the first time I've ever really done that, so it's just different. Like I said, it's a different race pace, and you're just really working on conserving your tires to be there at the end.
Second place run for Rico Abreu.
Abreu improving by the week in this series, now climbing up to 5th in the standings. But we mentioned Heckert continues to make up ground on Byron. He made up 21 points in the last 3 races. Let's talk to our point leader, not happy with tonight's performance.
Well, pole sitter William Byron in the number 9 finishes 8th here tonight. We're leading for a while, but why did you fade?
Yeah, we just kind of guessed wrong there. We kind of went with our strategy that worked the other short track races we raced, and it just didn't work. So we just fell off at the end. Kind of disappointing, but still had a good run, and we'll build from it. And we brought a fast car. The team worked hard. We worked hard through the mid portion of the race to keep the lead, and it just didn't pay off for us. But Dylan kind of ran us down there throughout the green flag run, and just kind of started to fade from there. So we'll work on it and go to VIR and have a better run.
What was the track surface like to race on tonight?
Yeah, it was different. I mean, the patches were kind of coming up, but it had character, so that was fun. It kind of brought the driver into the equation, and we just didn't play the game right. But we'll work towards VIR next week and get better.
It's a top 10 run for William Byron tonight.
And Jason, that's what champions are made of, having the confidence to go out there, make a mistake, and admit your mistake, put it in your notebook, and work on it for next week. Heading to VIR, though, Scott Heckert's success on the road courses, William Byron has to be feeling the pressure from his teammate.
17-year-old rookie leading the points. That's a lot to learn, and it's coming at him quickly. Our next race is going to be tomorrow. That's Friday, August 28th, 2:30 Eastern with our K&N Pro Series West, the Napa Auto Parts 150 from Evergreen Speedway in Washington. Well, so many things happened tonight. Drivers talking about conserving their cars, but then they had to conserve the track and rebuild it. And when they did, Dylan Bassett emerged with the lead, and they could not get him back. First career win for the young man from Winston-Salem. Congratulations to him. For Parker Kligerman and Derek Pertisiglio, I'm Jason Wygant. Thanks for watching, and congratulations to Dylan Bassett.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our loyal fans for your continued support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.